Hello and welcome to our YouTube podcast. This is just the introduction, so you get to know a little bit about us. I am Caleb. This is Reilly. He doesn't say much, evidently. And we'll be talking over a range of topics for all ages and all interests.
And ethnicities. So, just a little background. This is my wife's younger brother, Caleb. As he said, I'm Reilly. And we're doing this podcast to explore our minds and try and open them up further. Because this man right here is very intelligent. I appreciate his input. And I think I'm smart enough to have a conversation with him. So, yeah. We also have our producer, Katie, my wife, behind the camera, his sister.
And with that, we'll be introducing our first segment of the podcast, which is Question of the Day. And today's question for you and for the audience is, what should this podcast be called?
Any ideas?
Yeah, so we don't know the questions ahead of time, sadly. But something self-deprecating for sure. Maybe like the Two Clowns podcast, something like that.
Well, we want to sound a little more professional than clowns.
Two Professional Clowns podcast. Too long?
Yeah, it does. We need something maybe with a deeper meaning, like, well, I'll say Dope Perfect because we don't have any licensing right now.
Dope Perfect podcast.
You know, that started off,
Mm-hmm.
They filmed their first video and he backed away from the camera and he said, Dope Perfect. So,
obviously he's
that's
referring to the giant YouTube channel where they do trick shots. But obviously we don't want to have this banned by our overlords at Google. So yeah, I agree. Maybe we'll come up with something said in this podcast might be just so transcendent, so inspiring that we'll make it part of the title. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Maybe we'll just have to go along. We could just call this, for now, the Zell Thomas podcast. What do you think?
It's not bad. Maybe something with being awkward. Like the Awkward Podcast by Reilly and Caleb.
We will keep workshopping the title. If any of you fans have any ideas for the title of this podcast, please comment down below. Please also don't forget to subscribe. And with that, we'll move on to our next segment, which we're introducing for the first time. I think it will be very popular, is What Upset Me This Week.
Would you start?
Sure. Well, what upset me this week is what has upset me ever since I was introduced to dishonesty. And I think I'm just going to start off with, let's say, I'll use the slogan since I don't think we can get sued for saying nothing runs like a deer, because that is a sentence that could just be used. The company that uses
Nothing to do with any company, of course. Just nothing runs like a deer. They have a very distinct running motion. Sorry, go ahead.
Anyway, the company that says that quite commonly and attempted to use it for their motto, whether or not they've succeeded,
fell on their face, essentially.
Anyway.
Failures.
Before, they were a very good company. They made the best tractors because they make tractors and lawnmowers.
What company are you referring to? New Holland?
The company that
you can say we have John Deere. You're referring to John Deere, correct? Yes. You can say that.
Okay.
You can also say Dude Perfect,
I didn't go,
just for the record.
I didn't go to law school, or I did not study law either.
Clearly,
that's one of the reasons he's here. He hasn't studied law.
I have nothing important to say. I'm here so he doesn't get sued. I'm essentially his lawyer, and this is the Awkward Caleb podcast. But since I'm here, Awkward Caleb and Reilly podcast. Go ahead.
I just they made a name for themselves, and boys and girls and American people grew up knowing them
Anyone.
as a good company. And eventually, as they got older and found cheaper ways to make things,
Mexican. They went Mexican.
more people started just lying. The government started downturning, and they found they could get away with more. And because people trusted them, they started making their things cheaply. And, you know, they purposely make things, you have to take it to their John Deere dealership to fix it.
Proprietary, you could say.
And they have poor mechanics, or they have mechanics who know what they're doing, and they know what they're doing so well that they lie, and they get you to pay for parts that never actually was going to fix the problem. And either they didn't know that, and they just have bad mechanics and not hiring bad mechanics, or they did know that and they're cheating you out of your money. Either way, it's not acceptable. And
so you're calling John Deere out right now,
yes,
on quality of their product, quality and ways they fix it, and general dishonesty. That's what you're getting at.
Yes.
And that is what upset you this week.
Yeah, and it's almost like they have a monopoly, because no matter who makes better things, as I would say, Kubota
Go ahead.
makes better stuff, but it's not really a monopoly. It's just they have almost as like an insurance policy that the now probably handed down to them, the business just handed down to them, family members who are probably, probably spoiled kids when they got it to them, probably have spoiled kids. I don't know the John Deere family. I'm not going to say anything about them, but
The Deers.
they could be great people with a bad board of directors.
Yeah, that's when you go public, you lose a lot of control of your company. So what you're saying basically, if I'm understanding correctly, is John Deere is riding off the coattails of a once good product that now is awful.
Now is not
in your
great.
opinion.
And, the other companies can't compete because they're not American, and they can't make themselves American because they started in Japan. And there's nothing they can do about that. And people just, for some reason, have a bias against Japan because of things this company did and other American companies.
There's a
And
lot of
just-
reasons to have a bias against Japan. Not that I don't, but people
because
do.
of previous
People could for reasons.
previous conflicts with countries, including Japan, which America was involved with. Just one to mention World War II, some people still holding a grudge to that.
Sure.
Some people who have children, who are alive now, hold a grudge to that.
Sure.
I mean, they're a different country now. They're better. I have no bias against it. He has no bias against them. In fact, you could almost say I was biased with them. But
Bias against America, you could say.
no. What I want to do in the future is make a company that makes America better than Japan again. If it was up to me, America would be better than Japan. But it's not. And I can't do anything about that now that I'm 12. And I have no legal rights to start my own business. I have no steady or large income in order to fund a business.
Sure.
I can't even, at my current rate of income.
You could
it
say
would take me-
it's hard to overthrow the global world order while being a 12-year-old with limited funds and connections.
Yes.
That's what you would say? So to keep with the topic, this week something that really bothered me would have to be we'll cut this out. It'll be like I just thought and said it. Because Caleb's intellect has been just dizzying my brain. It's like all jumbled up. Ooh, thank you, viewer, France. I can't point to a specific instance in this, but this is part of my core doctrinal belief affecting every decision I make. Just France in general, just the worst. Like he was saying how we have no ill will toward Japan. Not speaking for Caleb, my partner here, but I couldn't have more ill will against France, the people of France, anything that comes out of France, anything connected to France, especially French Canadians, even worse somehow. They took being French and somehow made it worse, which is previously unfathomable.
Oh wait,
but anyway.
Wait, we have to address the last hockey game. Canada versus America.
And that actually brings us to our final segment of this podcast, which is current events. Now, we don't have a whole lot of time, but I think that's a great place to start, so go ahead.
Go ahead.
I'm just going to very quickly mention that the internet and YouTube is extremely frustrating in how many frauds there are.
Oh, no, never mind. Sorry, go ahead.
On there. And it was extremely hard for me to find the game, the official game, and the beginning of the game.
You think it was being censored?
No, there's so many videos saying the fans boo, and it's just people on Instagram that's saying like NHLL or something like that, trying to... So
what he's referring to
it was hard for me to find the game, and so I unfortunately cannot watch that game, and I definitely was not on it live. I heard after it.
He's speaking of the Four Nations Cup in hockey, where Canada and the United States were playing, and the U.S. was in Canada, and they booed the U.S. national anthem. And then we physically beat them down and then ultimately won the game 3-2, I believe. I'm not a hockey fan.
There was 9 fights in the first... No, there was 3 fights in the first 9 seconds.
What he said, yes, that's correct.
Which is just...
phenomenal.
Goes to show what America truly is and what John Deere truly isn't.
And you could... Well said. You could even see this as a dichotomy of, obviously, Trump is trolling them, President Trump, with they should be the 51st state. To me, after that beatdown, they should probably just be a territory, if it were up to me.
Like Antarctica. I mean,
like Puerto Rico, but not quite as significant as Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico does a lot of great things.
The Alaska Gold Rush of 18... Late 1800s.
To know this, not me.
Late 1800s. Mm-hmm. That there's obviously showing there's stuff there.
Mm-hmm.
There's stuff to mine, but it is such rural territory, and so coarse and hard to.
The last frontier.
Explore. It is. The woods are so dense. You go. I read a book called The Hatchet by Gary Paulson, and I highly recommend that book and every single book in its series. I haven't read all of them.
Out of 10, what do you give it?
I give it a 9 out of 10. The only reason I give it a 9 out of 10 is because there was some parts where it seemed kind of strange and just a little bit confusing, but you got it once you read the book.
But still a 9.
Still a 9, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, he according to him, did almost all of those things to get the feeling of it true. Anyway, highly recommend it, but it said in Canada, the mosquitoes are on you so much, you can't even see. They block out the sun. And his face was swollen so much that his eyes were shut, and he had trouble opening his mouth because his lips were swollen, and breathing through his nose. He couldn't breathe through his nose. And it's just ridiculous. And the winter there is so cold.
What you're getting at is that is how it's like to talk to a Canadian.
No, I was just saying there's not a lot there. And the reason Canada was booing, it just goes to show how insecure and how utterly useless their country and their people is.
Territory activity, not state.
They should be Antarctica the Antarctica of North America. Because they're cold, they're desolate, and they're useless. Anything to add?
I can't add to that. That's just perfect.
And with that, and with lunch on the table, we're going to conclude our first episode of the Awkward Reilly Caleb podcast. Our name will most likely be changing in the future. Again, please comment any ideas below.
We will try to... I'm going to pretend that we're going to have a lot of comments, like we're already famous. We're going to try and put your comments and, well, mention them here. But, you know, if there's too many, we can't mention more than 12 a show. So.
We will respond to your comments, and please comment below new segments we should do, because we cannot talk without prompts, many prompts.
I guarantee you, if you subscribe to us and you comment to us, you may think our video quality is bad, we're not dressing right, we may be too discriminative. If you comment, you tell us what you want us to do, and you subscribe, I guarantee you we will get better with time.
Correct. If we get to 50 subscribers before next podcast, we will not hate on any people group for the first 10 minutes. Guarantee that.
Well, I'm Caleb. That's Reilly. He's my brother-in-law. And this is the Awkward Caleb Reilly podcast show. Thank you for watching. Subscribe and leave a comment below.